The views and opinions of this broadcast do not reflect the views and opinions of Armed Media, New Productions and its affiliates. Enjoy the show.
Live from Boston, Massachusetts, this is Unscheduled with Les Skymo and my special guest, Dave. And I want to thank our military and their families. And I want us all to pray for, we lost 4, I believe those Marines today in a helicopter crash. Pray for their families. And just a few days ago, I believe it was, we lost a few. And but pray for our military families and all of our soldiers, Marines, Airmen, and all of our military. Pray for them. And this is a radio program, Dave, that to look at life through the eyes of a conservative Christian. And last week we're going to do a little recap, but. Last week, Dave, we had a pretty good program, and we're both veterans. Dave, he's an old hat at this. He's been to broadcast school, so he knows his way around the radio. Introduce yourself there, Dave.
Well, thanks, Lester. It's a pleasure being here, and my name's David, and I've been in radio about 40 years ago. That's when I started, and I just mostly listened to it after I got out of radio. I don't do much of broadcasting. This is the first opportunity I've had in probably 40 years to be back on the air. So it's great to be here, and we'll be happy to communicate what we believe to you. And Lester, I know he's going to be very entertaining, right, Lester?
Yeah. It'll take a few shows for me to really relax. But, folks, thank you for listening to Armed Radio. You can also go on Armed Radio Group News on Facebook, and you can browse the complete lineup of our shows. And if you would like, you can call tonight toll-free at 1-800-508-5431. And, join us. This is global. This goes around the world, and I think it's 66 countries. And so, let's kick this thing off, Dave. Now, I told a friend of mine, Jim, he sent me a question on Facebook last week, and as we see all the turmoil, not only in America, but in the world, everything is just, like my intro song says, it's just a ball of confusion. Everything is just upside down. And Jim would like to know, why are the churches silent while evil is taking over? What's your opinion on that, Dave?
Well, I think they don't have enough knowledge, really. It's like a lot of preachers, they don't preach on Bible prophecy, but yet the place where we're at today, as far as the evil that goes, was prophesied. In the Bible it says there'll be a great falling away before the end comes, and I think that goes for churches too.
Oh yes, amen.
That the churches are falling away from the truth, and they're just not brave enough to speak the truth. The people who are out there in sin right now, they go about doing what feels good to them,
right? Yeah.
And they have no problem being proud of who they are and what they are. Nowadays, we can't even figure out what gender people are anymore. There's so many choices you can make. It used to be when I was growing up, you either were a boy or a girl. But now, you look around. There's girls that's claiming to be boys, but physiologically they're girls, but they're wanting to be a boy.
Yeah.
And in their mind, I think there's so much confusion in the world today. People just don't know who they are. They don't have a core belief on anything.
Right.
And when you have a core belief, you know who you are, and nobody can change that.
Right.
Who you are because of your core beliefs. And that core belief comes from inside. It comes from your heart.
Right. Yeah.
And it radiates out. It radiates outward. And I think today, basically, kids don't know. They just don't know right and wrong.
Well,
it's as simple as that.
A lot of them, Dave, don't have no foundation.
Right.
And some of them do, and they steer away from it, which I've been on both sides of the fence, and you have too. But, I always had that foundation, and that was something, I had something to come back to. And, if you don't raise your children with a solid foundation, and I'm going to say biblical foundation because it's solid, it don't go nowhere unless you pervert it and change it and twist it. But if you raise your children on a solid biblical foundation, okay, no matter where they go or what they do, that foundation is always there to come back to. And I'll tell you this, people, if you don't raise your children, the world will.
That's right, they will.
And you won't like the end product, Dave, if you don't instill some solid core values, absolute right and wrongs, how to treat people, and on, to be good, productive citizens. If you don't instill that into your children, Dave, you're going to regret it when they get older because that stuff's going to come back and bite you. And now, to get back to the churches now, Jim, it's sad to say now your little churches like ours and the one yours, Dave, they don't have the funds to go and do all these rallies and stuff. They do what they can do in their neighborhoods. They do what they can do in their communities and in the families of their people. Now, and they do speak volumes where they have access to speak at. But now a lot of you take your mega churches now, and I'm not knocking them, and I'm not saying it's all of them, but I'm saying there's a lot of them, Dave, that they don't want to lose no church members. Some of them won't even take a stand, absolute stand on certain things because they're afraid of running people off. And when you run people off, then there goes the money. And so sad to say, that has crept into the church, and and that stops a lot of these mega churches from going out there and really banging the drum on what the Word of God says because they're just afraid of losing some money.
Yeah, we talked about this last week a little bit, and the Bible says in the book of Proverbs, chapter 16, verse 25, it reads, there is a way that seems right to a man or a person, but its end is the way of death. It means if you don't know the truth, you're going to stumble about doing what feels good to you.
Right.
And I think what Jesus Christ said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father but through me.
Yeah.
And that's what Jesus Christ said. And it's also written in the book of Proverbs, the heart of the righteous studies how to answer, but the mouth of the wicked pours forth evil.
Right.
And that evil is just, you see it every day, day after day after day.
Yeah.
It's because people basically are lost. They don't have a compass in their life. Right. They don't have a guidance.
Right.
And the things, I'm 64 years old, and as when I was growing up, things were much different than they are today. People, if they were gay, they never confessed it because they were ashamed of it.
Right.
It's not that way anymore. Right. It's almost as if people were proud of it. And back then, if a girl got pregnant in high school, they kept it quiet.
Shameful thing.
It was.
Yeah.
But now, it's just another thing.
It's
12, 13, 14-year-old girls getting pregnant. It's no big deal. It's done, and they take no thought of it. But it's because the world has drifted away from where they were, and they're getting more and more evil, and they do whatever they want. Whatever feels good, they do it. And that is not right. And there is a right and wrong, and there are absolutes. Some people say there is no absolute truth, but I disagree. There are absolutes.
Yeah.
There is a right and a wrong. And no matter what, you have to believe that there is a God, and that God is there for us to serve. I mean, God doesn't require much from us, but He requires our love, And if we love Him and we say we love Him, then we do what is in His Word. And there is a right and a wrong.
Sure.
There are commandments that God gave. Then they weren't suggestions. They were just commandments that you do these things.
Right.
But grace came along through Jesus Christ, which made the law obsolete. Because the law could never change your heart.
Never.
You could keep the letter of the law, but not the spirit of the law. Now, Jesus said, you've heard it said that thou shalt not commit adultery. He goes, but I tell you that when you look upon a woman to lust, you've committed adultery already in your heart.
Right.
The things that Jesus taught was a greater way. That the goodness comes from your heart, not from your brain.
Right, yeah.
That you could keep the letter of the law. As the Pharisees kept the letter of the law. They looked good on the outside, but inside they were dead.
Dead man's bones, yeah. Now there's something happened for the first time ever in the history. Now we're going to move on to politics here in a little bit, and but we got a couple things we want to address down this line, and but the Knesset there in Israel. Now that's the legislative body of the government. Now, if only our government would do this, Dave. They had a public forum. Now remember, the Jews as a nation have not accepted the New Testament. They don't accept Jesus Christ. Okay, however, they have invited the public, and this is the government of Israel, the Knesset, and they had an open forum where over 200 Christians and Jews got together and studied the Bible. That's never happened in the history of Israel, and that just happened in February of this year. And I thought that was pretty remarkable, Dave, that they're becoming so open to Christians, because there was always a rift between the Christian Jew and the Old Testament Jew. You know,
exactly.
This is a biblical event, and like I say, there's things happening. Hey, keep your eye on Israel, folks, and because there's a lot going on over there that's of biblical proportion. And now another thing too, Dave, and I got another question here in a bit I want to get into, but now, remember I told you last week, I said if I didn't believe in the Bible, if I wanted to find out if it's true or not, I would start and look at the prophecies to see what prophecies has come true or not come true. And when you look at the book of Exodus, you see where the prophesying of Israel becoming a nation. They were split, and Judea is split up, and it was Judea, and it was Israel, and then it was prophesied they come back together, and they would have one king. Okay, again, and that was, and then in May 14th, 1948, they declared themselves as a nation, and the United Nations declared them as a nation. So there's one prophecy that come true. But one event I want us to look at, this happened in our lifetime. Last year when they had the hurricane that hit Florida down there. Now you talk about the Red Sea splitting. Now, do you have that scripture?
Yeah, I do.
All you got to read is just how it happened.
Okay.
Just read how it happened.
Okay, this is it's found in the book of Exodus, chapter 14. It begins in verse 21. It says, Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea into dry land, and the waters were divided. So the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea on dry ground, and the waters were a wall to them on their right and on their left. And the Egyptians pursued and went after them into the midst of the sea, all Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, and all of his horsemen. Now it came to pass that in the morning watch that the Lord looked down upon the army of the Egyptians through the pillar of fire and cloud. He troubled the army of the Egyptians.
All right. Now that was caused by a strong east wind.
Right.
Now what was the hurricane blew through last year
It's Hurricane Irma.
Hurricane Irma. And now, this was from the Tampa Bay. This is from the Tampa Bay Times, Dave. And it says here, strong eastern and northeastern winds. Strong eastern and northeastern winds blowing to the southwest caused the water to drain. Now, it drained the Hillsborough Bay, and it also drained Tampa Bay. All right, the news said it was dry for miles. Okay, you know, you can't get no more proof that is possible than that right there. And we read you both accounts. Both accounts was they corresponded with each other that it was a strong east wind. Okay, so now to me, that hits the nail right on the head, Dave. And
interesting enough, though, Les, is that in the northern hemisphere, low pressure cyclones always blow from the east. That's when they come in to a landmass, they blow in a strong east wind.
Right.
So if you can imagine the Red Sea being primarily north and south,
right.
When the storm came across it, it blew from the east.
Right.
Or in other words, from Saudi Arabia, the landmass of Saudi Arabia, over toward Egypt.
Right.
So it blew the water out and separated it. Just exactly, just like it did with Tampa Bay.
Right. Well, see, just like Tampa Bay now, where the Israelites crossed the Red Sea was also a bay. They didn't walk across the actual large sea body, the sea, but it was seawater from the Red Sea up in the bay. It was 10 miles. They walked 10 miles across that bay. Mm-hmm. So it was a pretty big bay, you know. So it was this is almost identical to the bay where they crossed, you know. And so, you know, like I said, I can't prove to you that there's a God, but I can give you all kind of evidence.
But
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'll tell you this, Lester, that oftentimes God, He'll take the natural and He'll turn it into the supernatural.
Yeah.
You know, He takes things. This naturally occurred in Florida.
Oh, yeah,
it's a natural event.
Right.
But yet God timed it so that the children of Israel could get across the Red Sea by using the natural means to create the supernatural.
Absolutely.
A lot of people say, well, probably wasn't very deep, but that's even a bigger miracle that the Egyptians were drowned by 2 or 3 feet of water. But you know, that's what they say. But it actually happened the way the Bible describes it.
Right.
It said God caused a strong east wind to blow all night long, and He separated the water so they could cross. I mean, it's not hard to believe.
Right.
I mean, we've seen facts. This happened. It happened also. I think it was in the Bahamas or one of the other bays in the Caribbean. That one of these islands had a bay that went dry also from that same hurricane.
Right.
But it's not that unusual of a phenomenon.
Right. Yeah. It's just the first time that we've seen it so obvious.
Right.
You know, and that there was them sea cows that was stranded up in the bay. The water blew out so fast, it left them stranded. Mm-hmm. And there's pictures of people putting them, you know, trying to get them back. The manatees, yeah. And but I mean, you know, to me that's plenty of proof. But now I got a question here. Somebody asked, Jim asking, you know, what about Christians? Some people believe, Dave, that Christians shouldn't be involved in politics. But now, if you go back, now, not all of our founding fathers were Christians as we know Christians to be. But some of them were deists. Now, a deist is somebody that believes in a God. They believe in a heaven and a hell. But they believe that God has just set this thing up, and He put it in motion, and man just, you know, that God don't intervene in what man does. Now, some of them believe that way. Some of them probably didn't believe in God at all. But you can't separate, when you look at the miraculous, I don't even know how to describe it, of our Constitution. When you look at and how
they were
perfect
genius.
that they was.
Founding fathers were genius.
Well, yeah, and when you read that, it is so similar, Dave, to the Word of God.
They were brilliant men.
You know, and they knew there was a creator. One reason that they all come from England was to escape persecution. You know, they was imprisoning Christians. They was killing Christians, beating Christians. The king was a pretty ruthless guy. And so, you know, the problem today and for many years, Dave, in my opinion, is the Christians got away from the politics. They turned it over. Why would you turn something over to the devil that's so precious as the founding of this country and not being involved in the government? And that's why we have the problems we have today, David. I
agree. The world today, they try to, it's like this. They have an organization, Freedom from Religion.
Yeah.
When we have freedom of religion.
Right.
It's the way the founders said that, okay, a Christian believer or a Jewish believer, anybody can run for office.
Right.
It can't be stopped. But what the whole Constitution says is that the state could not institute its own religion, because that's what they were escaping from.
They run from a state religion.
They wanted to have their own freedom of religion.
Right.
So what the Constitution says is that it's to keep the government out of the church, not the church out of the government.
Exactly. Yeah.
We, as believers, can run for office.
Exactly.
And you know, Mike Pence is a good example.
Right.
They said about Mike Pence that, well, I think it was Joy Behar on The View, on the ABC show. She said that it's one thing to talk to Jesus, but it's quite another thing to have him answer back. And what Jesus said, "My sheep hear my voice," and
they know my voice.
They know my voice, and that when you are a believer, you read the Word, and it's activated by the Spirit.
Right.
And if you're a non-believer, it means nothing to you. It's a bunch of words. I mean, you just read it. It's like any other book. But when you read the Word, it becomes activated by the Spirit in your heart, and you understand it. It's like when Jesus was coming, after the resurrection in the Gospel of Luke, he came upon a couple disciples that were coming back from Jerusalem. It says, "Now behold, two of them were traveling that same day into the village called Emmaus, which was 7 miles from Jerusalem. And they talked together of all the things that had happened. So it was while they conversed and reasoned that Jesus himself drew near and went with them. But their eyes were restrained so that they did not know him. And he said to them, What kind of conversation is this that you are having with one another as you walk and are so sad?" Now, they were talking about what had happened in Jerusalem, that Jesus was crucified. Now, Jesus prevented them from seeing him in the flesh with their eyes.
Right.
For this reason, I believe. He wanted to expound upon the Old Testament and show himself in the Scriptures so they could see him in a deeper way. Because he wants to be seen in the Scripture, not physically. None of us has physically seen God.
Right.
But what it means is he wants to be seen in the Scripture. And when you see him in the Scripture, you see a more deeper aspect to God. Than if I just, like I'm looking at you, is one thing. I mean, it would be great to see a vision.
See, it don't take no faith for you to look at me, David, because you know I'm sitting here, see? And that's the foundation of our relationship with God. It's founded on faith and hope, see?
But but Jesus Christ desires to be seen in the Scripture, by the Spirit. He said, "Blessed are those who haven't seen but yet believe."
Right.
And it's better to have not seen him and believe than to have seen him.
Yeah, because it takes no faith.
Right. It takes no faith.
I know you're sitting there.
But that is what he said. And then he said to him, then he said to them, "O foolish one, and slow of heart to believe in that all the prophets have spoken. Ought not ought not the Christ to have suffered these things and to enter into his glory? He wanted to be seen and shown by the prophets and the first 5 books of Moses. He wanted to be seen. He brought himself out in that respect of who he was in the Word.
Okay, folks, there you go. Now, we're going to shift gears here a little bit, and Dave, I could talk about that all day long. But when you take God out of everything, something's going to replace that, and it's normally not good because there's going to be a void there. And the way people think, what people believe today really blows my mind, because when you take this school shooting down Florida, and, as the news kept coming out and things kept coming out, there's things that I really caught on to. When the news come out, they caught this boy that done that shooting down here in Florida. They caught him sitting down the road eating a sandwich. But then, as information kept coming out, well, you know what? The FBI dropped the ball. The FBI had been tipped off because of a Facebook post. Not Facebook, YouTube, wasn't it?
Somebody actually called and reported him.
Yeah, it was YouTube or Facebook. Okay, but anyway, so the FBI got a tip on this kid because he put on Facebook or YouTube that he wanted to grow up and be a school shooter or something like that. But the FBI failed to take this information and give it to the Miami FBI field office. They failed to give that to them. Then, when the shooting started, the media almost beat the police to the school. The Broward County Sheriff, you had this one cop at the school that was hunkered down outside, and he lied and said he thought the shooting was outside. They got him on audio and videotape. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, or thereabouts, there's 3 other Broward County deputies cowed down behind their cars with their M16s. Them guys got fully automatic weapons. And none of them engaged the shooter while the shooting was going on. And then the guy walks out with the rest of the students while these 4 officers are cowed down outside, not knowing what's going on. The city police come and cleared that school. Not the Broward County deputies. It was the city police. That if they would have got there first, Dave, they would have engaged that shooter, and they would have neutralized him and probably saved a lot of lives. And then he come out and said, well, somebody give a stand-down order. If somebody give a stand-down order and didn't allow them to enter that school, they need to be prosecuted for something. They need to go to prison over that, because as far as I'm concerned, they're accessory to murders. Like 17 of them. And then when we go through all that, as sad and tragic as that is, then we have the walkout. Then the school gets involved. Then the Democratic Party gets involved. Then the anti-gunners get involved. They drag these poor kids, some of them willingly, and this Hogg kid that his dad is an FBI agent, boy, he loves the camera. He's been groomed really well before this ever happened. But see, here's the thing I'm driving at, Dave, is all these people dropped the ball. If the FBI, well, not only that, let me back up a second. About 40 times, depending on who you ask, let's put it this way, 20 to 40 times, Broward County Sheriff deputies went to this boy's house, this shooter's house. And come to find out, this boy had been spent some time in a mental institution. So after all this takes place, everybody drops the ball. You got 17 families grieving because they've got a murdered child. got the 17 murdered children.
I think there were 2 or 3 that were teachers that were killed.
Well, yeah, one of them was a coach. One of them was a coach.
Like 14 kids.
But here's the thing about it. Typical liberals. Okay, they pay to bus these kids to this March for Our Lives. And they say it was done on George Soros's money. The first one I seen at that school was at Debbie Wasserman Schultz. These people have no heart, David. They have no conscience. No sooner than these kids are shot, here these liberals come to use these children as pawns. And I blame a lot of it on the parents for allowing this crap to happen. Everybody drops the ball. Kids are used for pawns, and they want to take law-abiding citizens' guns. Now, that's the demonic thinking that you have in society today. They don't want to.
Never let a tragedy go to waste.
Exactly.
Who said that?
Yeah.
The mayor of Chicago. What's his name?
Yeah. I'll think of it after a while. But see, Dave, that's how out of whack that our society is right now. To blame an inanimate object instead of blaming the boy that done the shooting. Right. Don't punish the innocent people.
Well, a gun is just a tool.
It's a tool.
I mean, it'd be like nothing. If the kid had been say, Islamic terrorist and he blew up a bomb in the hallway and he killed 17 people, they'd have no excuse. I mean, they wouldn't be out having a big rally against Islam, would they? No.
Right.
No, they would go about their business just as much as they ever did.
Yeah.
Rahm Emanuel, yeah, the governor or the mayor of Chicago.
Right.
He said never let a tragedy go to waste. And but the thing is, it's. Well, terrorists can use any kind of weapon they want.
Oh yeah, bomb.
And nothing's ever said about it.
Right.
They can do whatever they want.
Right.
You let a Christian do it, and say if there's a bunch of Presbyterians or a Methodist going around killing people and blowing them up with bombs. Oh man, it would be like the end of the world.
Right.
There'd be demonstrations galore.
Right.
But a lot of these people, to be perfectly honest, they're afraid. If they say anything against Islam, they're liable to get their head cut off. I mean, that could happen. These people are crazy.
Yeah.
I mean...
but you know the source of the thinking, though, Dave? It's right here all over in America. It's how can you allow your children to be used that way right after a tragedy? Why don't you have isn't there anything left in you where you can believe truth? This stuff ain't truth.
It's because they hate conservatives so bad, and they hate the gun laws so bad that they're willing to sacrifice anything.
It seems that way.
They will, even their children, to get their political view heard and to get things changed.
It's an abomination.
But founders, like we were talking about earlier, the founders of the Constitution, they wrote into the Second Amendment that we have the right to bear arms for protection.
Right.
And it's just a tool.
Right.
If you had the right to bear a pitchfork or whatever, some other kind of weapon, a sword or any kind of weapon, if you have the right to defend yourself, that's what it gets down to.
That's what it boils down to.
That you have the right to protect your life and you protect your freedom and your happiness if somebody else wishes to take it. Mm-hmm. And that's why we have the freedom to have a weapon.
Right.
But the state can't take that away from us. Because let's face it, I don't carry, but I've got a weapon in my house for protection.
Right.
And
because we're Christians don't mean you can run over us.
If I called 911, I know for a fact that where I live in the township, they're going to send the sheriff.
Yeah.
The local city police in Franklin, Ohio, will not come to my house.
Right.
They'll send the sheriff, and that's going to take anywhere from, depending on where they're out, it could take anywhere from 4 minutes to half an hour.
Right. Yeah.
It's up to me. And if I defend myself and my own family, that's up to me. I have to do that.
Exactly.
I'm obligated to do that.
Right.
But this thing about taking weapons, and where's it going to stop?
Right.
They want to take the AR-15.
It won't stop. It won't stop.
They'll keep going
until you see what happened to the Jews when Hitler disarmed Germany. Right? And you see what's going on in Venezuela right now. Oh, that place, they're crap holes. And it's just the public has been slaughtered wholesale. You see it right now in Africa, in South Africa. The white farmers has been slayed. They're killing them every day and taking their land. And Castro, Mussolini, you can go right on Stalin. You go right on down the line. And but it's what gets me, Dave, is the train of thought. Okay, truth don't matter to these people. Their agenda, what they hate, it doesn't matter if it's based in truth or facts. That's a stumbling block to them. Don't bother them with the truth. Don't bother them with the facts. Don't bother them with the evidence that they're wrong, because that gets in their way. And they're so hateful and vile, and
it's just coming down to a choice.
It's ridiculous.
It is. It's going to come down to a choice, and it's always been that way.
Yeah.
There's good and evil.
I get upset.
And those people who want to do evil will do it any way they can.
Any way they can.
And the weapon is just a tool to accomplish the evil.
Right.
It's like an abortionist, a doctor. Mm-hmm. They will do as many abortions as they can, as often as they can, every day of the week, if they can. To them, it's the job.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the tools of the trade.
Right.
It's how they make their living.
Right.
Well, it's the same way if somebody's evil. They want to take life. They don't care how they do it.
Right.
And if they can't get a weapon, they'll get a bomb, a ball bat, a tire iron. They'll take a knife. They'll cut your head off. They'll stab you, like they do in Israel. They can't get guns, so you know what they do?
Oh, they stab
you in the neck. They stab you in the neck and try to cut your carotid artery.
Yeah.
They're trained how to.
Palestinians do that all the time.
How to kill people.
They do
where
that
to stab them to kill them.
From the time that they're able to walk, they
throw rocks.
Yeah.
I see on the news today. They're throwing rocks at the Israeli soldiers.
Yeah.
And because that's all they have.
Yeah.
If they had guns, they would be shooting.
Oh, yeah. It's just that train of thought, man, and but it just blows my mind. People just don't care about the truth, and but it's all over the guns. What do you think about this? What's going on with the dossier and there's so many people in the FBI and the judges. And that FISA judge, I think he's just guilty as the rest of them.
Lester, I'll tell you, the more that comes out, the more disappointed I am in the structure of this country. The FBI, when I was growing up, they were the ultimate law professionals.
Oh, yeah.
To see what I've seen in the last, I guess, year.
Yeah.
All these things that are coming out on the FBI, and Rod Rosenstein, James Comey, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, Eddie McCabe, his wife, the Loretta Lynch meeting on the tarmac with Bill Clinton, and Hillary Clinton getting out of that, not even doing a proper investigation, not impaneling a grand jury. I served on a grand jury once, and I did it for a month. I served on a grand jury. I know how it works.
Right.
You impanel a grand jury when there's a crime. Mm-hmm. They didn't even impanel a grand jury. They had no intentions on bringing any kind of evidence against Hillary Clinton.
Right.
And it was a sham. And the FBI was involved in it.
Oh, yeah.
Obama was involved in it from the head down.
Some Justice Department people. And see, and that goes back to Jeff Sessions. And I tell you what, man, I have lost. He's got this prosecutor from Utah to look into this thing. But here's what rubs me wrong, and some of the Republicans, that's the right way to go, blah, blah, blah. You don't want a special prosecutor running wild, just like...
No, not against... You're not against Democrats, you don't.
Yeah.
But against Republicans, bring it on.
Yeah. But see,
bunch of cowards is what they are.
I've lost... the Republicans...
They're cowards.
I tell you what, Dave. conservative Republican don't mean squat to me today. That don't mean nothing to me. With what's going on, what I've seen, you vote these people into office and they turn into Democrats or rhinos. They don't have a lick of fight to them. Every time we give the Republican Party the majority, they turn around and tuck their tail between their legs. They ain't got a lick of backbone. They don't have not a lick of fight in them, and that burns me to no end, David. And Jeff Sessions,
right?
I can't now. My mind goes. I swear I try to steer away from conspiracy theories, but I can't help it. I believe from where I'm looking right now, Dave. Now you ain't talked about this, but you tell me what you think. Okay, Rudy Giuliani wanted that job.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, him and Jeff Sessions were the first two out of the box that supported Donald Trump. Now, they hate Trump. Even the Republicans hate Trump. Okay, and you see that in this budget deal. They cornered him, and they dangled his love for the military in front of him, and he signed that $1.3 trillion bill. And they turned around and they stabbed him in the back. They, just like Delilah, they cut his hair. He don't have no bargaining chips. If he would have collapsed that government, let that government collapse, he had the Democrats where he wanted them. But his lack of experience and I think in a little bit of trust, I think he trusted the Republicans, Dave, and they stabbed him in the back. And this just infuriates me. And back to Giuliani and back to Jeff Sessions. To me, okay, Jeff Sessions is trying to run the clock out on this. I believe he's a mole. I can't help but to believe the man is a mole, and he's covering Hillary Clinton's tracks and trying to run out the statute of limitations on this to where she can't be touched. They have something on her. There's something going on with Jeff Sessions right off the bat. What did he do? He recused himself from this Russia deal. Why? He had no reason to do that. Okay, why didn't President Trump give Rudy Giuliani? You know what? If Rudy Giuliani would have had that job, I honestly believe they'd done be building the gallows for some of them.
I think you're right.
Man, I tell you, it fires me up, brother.
The thing about Donald Trump...
Settle me down. Help me, Jesus.
The thing about Donald Trump is he's not an ideologue.
No.
He's not a conservative.
But see, he knows these people, and they hate him.
He's done more for the conservative cause than
Absolutely.
Probably since Ronald Reagan, in my opinion, because he's not an ideologue. He looks at people two ways. Either they're good or they're bad. Are they a good guy or are they a bad guy?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's exactly how he looks at people.
Yeah.
And he'll give you the benefit of the doubt. He don't care about what label you are. If you call yourself an independent, a Democrat, a Republican, he doesn't care about that.
Right.
He only cares about one thing. Can he get his agenda done?
Right.
That's what he wants.
Well, he loves America, and
he loves America, exactly. He does love America, very much so. But the thing is, he's not an ideologue.
Right.
He's not the kind of guy that will put his own party and beliefs in front of the agenda.
Mm-hmm. Right.
He wants to get the agenda done, whether it's with Democrats or Republicans. He doesn't care.
Because he knows it's good for America.
Right, exactly. But the reason they hate him so much is because he's stolen everything that they've got.
Yeah.
He's stolen the working man.
Yeah.
He stole the unions.
Oh, yeah, he busted up their little party.
He wants to put tariffs on steel and aluminum. He wants to save jobs in the United States. This has been a Democrat stronghold forever.
Oh, yeah.
And he's wanting to take their issue from them.
Right.
And this is why they hate him so bad.
Well, see, David, and the Republicans are corrupt as the day is long.
Sure they are.
Okay, they make these inside deals. That's just like, Joe Biden's son made billions or millions off of the Chinese government. They play these inside games, and their family are the ones that go in after they see what's cooking. Their families will go in and they'll buy stocks, they'll buy bonds, whatever, into these companies that they see the government starting to pump money into and making deals, and that's how they get fat.
But see,
and they Swiss bank accounts out the yang.
A politician, which Trump isn't, he's not political.
That's why they don't understand. Dirty as the Democrats.
People don't understand Trump because he's not a politician.
Right.
And he does things to shock him and surprise him by his tweets because he's not a politician.
And that's why we voted for him.
He doesn't care about politics. And because of that, they hate him.
Yeah.
And this is never going to change with Trump.
Right.
He's never going to change. And he believes what he believes.
Right.
And nobody's going to change him. Now, he'll put two people up against each other, one with two different beliefs and two different arguments, and he'll listen to them.
Yeah.
And what he'll do, he will judge which one he likes their argument the best.
Right.
And maybe he'll change it a little bit if he likes your argument.
Yeah.
He likes that kind of stuff. I do too, personally.
Right.
I love to hear two people going at it so I can form an opinion if I have no opinion. But most things, me and you, we have opinion. We already have opinions on, as old as we are.
Yeah.
Our opinions are set in stone.
Right.
Well, Donald Trump's 71 years old. His opinions are pretty much set in stone. That's why you see things he's talked about years ago on these talk shows back in the 1980s.
Oh, yeah.
He hasn't changed a bit.
Right.
That's what he believes.
That's who he is. That's who he is.
He believes the Japanese, the Chinese, the Russians, everybody who's an enemy of the United States, they're getting away with too much.
Oh, yeah.
And this is why he is not going to change. And they be politically correct, he will not do it.
Right.
He will not become politically correct to please people.
Right.
If you don't like it, it's too bad.
Right.
That's just the way he is.
Right.
And that's why they hate him.
But see, Dave, I think on this budget deal, all right, he caved on that.
Sure he did.
I seen today where he's trying to figure out a way to where he can cut this budget, cut some of that foolish spending. He knows he screwed up when he signed that. But in the beginning, he thought he could trust him. And now he found out he couldn't trust him. But what happened, like I said, now he's lost his power. Because back when they had the CRs, the continued resolutions, back in December to January, the government was shut down for 69 hours. In January to February, it was shut down for 2 weeks. Okay, and Trump won those arguments. Okay, and then in March, he, instead of shutting the government down again, okay, 4 people went in and conjured up this omnibus spending bill. It was Paul Ryan, it was Mitch McConnell, it was Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. There was over 2,000 pages, and what's the guy's name from Kentucky? The independent.
Rand Paul.
Rand Paul tried his best to read all of that and couldn't do it. It's over 2,000 pages. And just like Trump said, nobody knew what was in it. He signed that. He done the same thing that they done on Obamacare. And that just set my hind end on fire, David, because there's Planned Parenthood in that, money for all kinds of crazy things. But here's the thing about it. He had bargaining power. He had them Democrats over a barrel. And until they were scared to death to shut that government down again because they got to blame for it the last 2 times. He had them over the barrel. And he signed that stupid thing. And he relinquished every bit of his power to them Democrats and them dirty Republicans, because every one of the Republicans that voted for that, Dave, they hate his guts. They're trying their best to destroy him or neutralize him.
Well, if they win the House, you guarantee he's going to be voted impeached. If they win the House.
Well, see, here's the thing.
I mean, he won't be impeached because they won't have enough in the Senate to accomplish it.
Here,
But see, politicians they like 2 things. They like money and they like power.
Power.
And I mean, when you got enough money, what's the next thing you seek is power.
It's power, yeah.
Because a lot of these people are millionaires that run for office.
Well, sure.
They've got plenty of money, so what do they want? They want power. Well, it's always been about the power.
Well, see, here's the thing, Dave. Now, you hear he's talking about putting the military, he wants to put the National Guard Right there's the numbers. In the Senate, let me put my glasses on here. In the Senate, there was 145 yeas. In the House, there's 145 yeas for the Republicans, and there's 90 noes. That tells me there's 145 of them that's rhinos, don't give a crap about the deficit in this country, because they would have never, that should have been shut down right there because they didn't read the darn bill. And then in the Senate, it was 25 Republicans voted yes. But anyway, it passed. He signed it. Now, okay, we got that thing with these people from Honduras. Mexico was supposed to have broke that up and put a stop to all these refugees coming. Well, they're not even refugees. They're coming from Honduras. They say 1,200 of them. Probably more like 2,000 or 3,000 of them. The truth being known. But they're just going to see how much Trump will put up with. Okay, but Trump went to the National Guard to put on the border to try to get leverage back. That's what this is all about, is sending the military down there for him to try to get the argument back on the DACA, because he lost DACA. When he signed that omnibus bill, he lost the argument on the wall, and he lost the argument on the DACA. Okay, because he was blaming the DACA failing to get anything straightened up on the Democrats, and he had a good argument because it was true. But as soon as he signed that, he lost that. He lost that now, and I'm hoping I'm wrong. I don't mind being wrong, but I'm afraid I'm not wrong about this. We got midterms coming up, and this bill, the fiscal year is over in September, okay, of 2018. They're going to have to go back, and they're going to have to do another budget bill.
Yeah.
You know.
He said he wouldn't do another omnibus spending bill like he just did.
Yeah.
But to get this, though, the election's coming up in November.
Yeah.
So what's he going to do?
That's what I'm saying.
He's stuck.
What's he going to do?
He has no leverage.
He's done it himself.
There's no leverage.
Now, and not only that,
shut the
Dave,
government down or do a continuing resolution.
Not only that, is he gives them an issue, because as soon as he puts the National Guard on that border, okay, which on his face, I'm not against that. Okay, but he's giving the Democrats an issue for the midterms. He give it to them on a silver platter, and he knows he messed up, and he's trying to undo it, you know, and I just don't think he can put the genie back in the bottle. What do you think about that?
If we lose the House, what's going to happen is first order of business in January of in the year 2019 is going to be to impeach Donald Trump.
Oh, sure.
And that's already set in stone. That's going to happen. I mean, they're going to if they win back the House, the Democrats are definitely going to. First order of business is to impeach Donald Trump. Yeah. Now, it won't go through the Senate. It'll be like what happened with Bill Clinton.
Oh yeah.
Basically, but they won't even have a good reason. Bill Clinton. Now, see what they're trying to get Trump on right now is that they're trying to get him to mess up and have an interview.
Oh yeah.
That way they can get him or catch him in a lie.
Yeah.
It'd be a process crime. But if Bob Mueller can get Donald Trump in an interview, which I would not do.
I wouldn't do it.
I would say, okay, you got something on me, prove it.
Yeah.
And I just refuse to answer questions. They say, well, I'll set you in front of a grand jury. Say, well, I'm not going to answer any questions.
Right.
Don't answer them because they got nothing on him. Did you know that it is not illegal for collusion? Collusion is
not a crime.
It's not a crime.
No.
Now, this is Greg Jarrett from
but
Fox
the media boys pumping it up.
No, Greg Jarrett from Fox News and also Alan Dershowitz have both said collusion is not a crime. So what are they going to get Trump on?
Lying.
Exactly, lying or lying to the FBI or supposedly obstruction.
Yeah.
But what's the underlying crime?
Right.
There is none.
Right.
When Mueller came into this deal, there was no crime to investigate.
There was nothing there.
He had to go back. And all these different
cases. The ones that's been pled guilty and stuff is totally unrelated to the Russian deal.
Right.
It was totally
had nothing
unrelated.
to do with Russia.
No. Well, the one guy suing them to get the charges dropped. But I think there may be one saving grace in this, Dave. There may be one saving grace in this thing for Donald Trump. I seen today where another city, and there's several of them raising up to sue California, the state, over their sanctuary city thing.
It's illegal.
They're getting sick. Well, sure.
They can't do that.
But see, here's the thing. They're finally seeing the error of their ways. And city after city, and it's going to pile up and pile up. And maybe them people in California is going to see how right Trump really is about the border, because they're feeling it. Their crime's going through the roof. In L.A., where my wife was born, in Los Angeles, there's 50, 60 blocks of tent city, homeless people, refugees, illegal aliens, all over the place. What's that say, Dave? I don't have my glasses on. And
you got to wrap it up. You got about 15 seconds.
Oh, Lord, boy, we cut her close. Thank you, Jim. But that will be the saving grace, I think. Yeah. Maybe for Donald Trump. Folks, thank you. Thank you very much for tuning in to ARM Radio. God bless you, and we will be seeing you next week at 7 o'clock. Dave, you want to take us out?
It's been great, Lester. We've enjoyed being with you today, and we've enjoyed the great conversation. And we'll see you all next time around.
All right. Okay, thank you, Jimmy. Paul.
And the band plays.